Greetings. I'm Reverend Jennifer Cormier, ceremonial artist and proud creator of this podcast. In my recent private work, I've been helping successful women release the pressure they put on themselves so they can feel at peace and have way more fun in their lives. This is exactly what we do at the Grace Collective, a virtual spiritual community of soulful, big hearted creatives who value authentic connection and joy. At the Grace Collective, we practice keeping our hearts open and our sense of humor in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Just like you, we've each moved through various life losses, and we've risen up through the ashes. We're leaders, artists, healers, aunties, mothers, grandmothers who gather to heal, grow, and create together. We honor our bodies, the earth, and all beings as sacred, knowing that nature, friendship, and laughter are all good medicine for the soul. We meet at the intersection of spirituality, embodiment, and creativity as part of our activism and our legacy. So I welcome you if you are a soulful woman looking for more community, creativity, laughter, and fun. I invite you to join the Grace Collective. We're offering our listeners 1 month of membership as a gift. Visit www.gracecollective.us and check out the show notes for more details. I look forward to connecting with you there. Until then, I send warmth and gratitude from my heart to yours. Welcome to the Walk Through Grief with Grace podcast, a space for human hearts to gather around stories of loss and love. I'm Jen Cormier, your grief guide and host. It is my honor to have you join us through this sacred act of listening. May you receive something here that you need, something that is healing and calls forth your compassionate heart. We are so glad you're here. Well, we are here. We have arrived at this moment. I'm so deeply moved to have the producer of our podcast on today for an interview. We've had Caitlin speak just briefly over the past years that this podcast has been rolling, and she's been with us since the very beginning, helping us launch the podcast from the very start. So thank you, Caitlin, for taking the time today to be here.
Thank you, Jen, for not saying, I'm so excited to have Caitlin. I always make fun of her for just starting the podcast in similar ways. So that's why you got a deeply moved in this episode, which I love.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just so appreciate your keen eye and keen ear and presence around crafting this podcast. Caitlin does the production, the show notes, she edits the podcast, and she talks me down off ledges when I'm having existential crises. So her roles are much bigger. She should have a much grander title, but it felt really important. We were talking some months ago about endings of things. This is a grief podcast. We talk about all kinds of loss here, but we were talking about death and dying and conscious dying, um, especially because she was walking through a terminal diagnosis with her aunt, Diane. And I'll have her share about Diane in a moment. But we didn't notice, it was pretty obvious that she agreed to work with me on this podcast right about the exact same time when Diane had gotten a terminal cancer diagnosis, and she had made a commitment to live for a particular milestone in her family's life, and and she was coming to the end of her life in these last few months, and we were talking about, you know, how things sometimes things just end abruptly with no fanfare and no meaningful story behind it. And often podcasts will start, and then we're in about year 3.5 right now, and many podcasts just they fizzle out, after just a few episodes or 10 episodes or something. They just disappear because it takes effort and energy to keep them going. And we were thinking, you know, what is, and I had that thought, like, how long are we doing this podcast? I mean, is it for the rest of my life? Just logistically, realistically, is this going on forever and ever? Like, what is the ending? And
Yeah.
so we just want to talk about that a little bit. We want to talk in about Diane specifically. We want to make this a memorial sharing about a really important member of Caitlin's family who she's talked to me about throughout the life of this podcast on multiple basis, on multiple occasions, I should say. And then we want to talk about endings and how we can do them. Sometimes we have like the we have the what's the word? Um Not power. We have the um oh gosh. What's that word, Caitlin?
I don't know, just intention.
The It's like when the privilege. We have the privilege. This is what it is. And I know you it out all night long. So we have like sometimes, oftentimes, endings just happen to us, right? The world is happening to us. There's an accident. Things have to come to an end. We get kicked out of our home. Things end without any choice. And occasionally we have the privilege to curate an ending in the way that we want, in a way that feels meaningful, in a way that is um, powerful for us or meaningful for those that we love that are affected by whatever the life of this thing is, a person or a thing. So we were talking about this podcast as its own entity, and when does it end? And can we have a conscious letting go, like a conscious dying process for the podcast? So
Mhm.
that's another, we wanted to talk about both of those things interwoven because they really have been walking together. Um, your aunt's end of life journey and this podcast talking a lot about end of life.
Yeah, absolutely. The timeline of my aunt's cancer journey and this podcast are so remarkably intertwined. As Jen already said, we kind of conceptualized the podcast, and I came on board with starting to work on it right around when my aunt was diagnosed with cancer in May of 2021 with bile duct cancer. It's a very rare form of cancer that very few people, very few people see past 6 months with that cancer.
Yeah.
And she said, as soon as she was diagnosed, that she wanted to make it to her younger son's college, or no, sorry, let me start over. She wanted to make it to her younger son's high school graduation, which would be 4 months from that Oh my gosh. How do you do this all the time? This is so hard. Okay, let me start. Like, shoot.
Wiki, Caitlin.
No,
We should do a whole show of outtakes.
no, goodness gracious. Okay. She said that she wanted to make it to her younger son's high school graduation, which would be 4 years from her diagnosis. And then in November of that year, she had a 2 pound, the doctor said, a burrito sized tumor removed from her abdomen. And then Jen and I basically launched the podcast like a week after that. And over the past 3.5 years, we've had so many episodes that have just taught me a lot about this process. I mean, Tina Hong talked about her dad's process with this exact type of very rare cancer. So that spoke to my family directly. And I've heard so many episodes about incredible caregivers from hospice providers that my family has become, very familiar with, especially in the last year, about home funerals, which we didn't necessarily have, but having that knowledge of what that looked like allowed my family and I to, with the help of a hospice nurse, prepare my aunt's body after she passed and give people the opportunity to come sit with that. And I don't know if we would have done that if I hadn't been learning all of these things through this podcast work. So the alignment of it has been incredible. And my aunt did make it. She did not physically attend graduation, but she lived to graduation day. And I kid you not, 12 hours, almost to the minute after that graduation ceremony ended, she passed, which none of us were surprised. Like every doctor in her life was blown away. She blew through every milestone they gave her by years. Even to the very end, the hospice nurse would say, I think it's tomorrow. 2 weeks later, we're still hanging out with her. So for her to literally make it that far to that moment after graduation just meant so, so much to my family.
Mm. And she made a real declaration around it.
Oh, yes.
She was a marathon runner. She was one of those endurance athletes. So
Yes. Yes.
leave it to a marathon runner to say, you're giving
Yes.
X amount of months, watch me make it this many years for my son's
Yes.
graduation. And she was, I mean, that's just like the power of the human spirit. Um, Sometimes it's just we can do what seems impossible. Um, and then also there are moments to surrender, right? And she picked her day of surrender. She said, I'm surrendering.
Oh, she absolutely did. She, like, I don't know why anyone.
Surrender, but the finish line is this.
Yes, exactly. And I
Right.
actually, if I can, want to play what my cousin, so at her memorial service, my uncle, her older son, two of her best friends, and I all spoke. But my younger cousin just, what he said really summed up what she was able to do in the past few years. It's not long, so I'm just going to play it.
Um, just as my dad started, I want to say thank you for everyone who's here. There's a lot I could talk about today. What an amazing mother she was. How me and her were oil and oil. If she lit on fire, I quickly followed. What an amazing sister and friend she was. Helping those who were weak find strength and those who lacked faith find it again. I could talk about what an amazing wife she was. My dad never shared this with me, but one time when I was going through his office because I was trying to steal one of his pens, I found a letter my mom wrote to him on a small little card that said, never give up. No, you are amazing and you will succeed. To give it an unworthy summary. But what I want to talk about today is what sums up all of that. Her ultimate sacrifice for so many of us, the relentlessness of these last few years, and better put, months. Her cancer was supposed to give her 6 months. And the day we found out, she said, I will make it to your graduation being me. And she made it. Next thing she said was, I will make it to Bryce's graduation. And there, she did not see it. She made it. And it was a sacrifice. Don't get it wrong. It was not a gift for herself. It was a sacrifice. For those who were there for the most of it, being me, my dad, and brother. At no point was it easy. I can only imagine how much worse it was for her. But she stuck through, relentlessly staying, never giving up, never letting go until she achieved her goals, whether it be comforting so many of you, saying it will be okay, saying to never give up, or me, or my dad or father being there. When she made it to my brother's graduation, the next thing she said wasn't, it's time. It's, let me comfort Serenity, one of our family, friends, daughters, and almost like a sister to me. So the lesson I want to give to everyone, and the thing I will never forget, is to be relentless. Her final sacrifice to all of us was to be relentless and to never give up. So I only hope the rest of us can take her sacrifice and learn from it. To be relentless, not for ourselves, but for others who need us to be, even if it's hard. To be there for others if they fall weak, even if you are weak. To be there for others, to push them up higher when you yourself might be low. And I just hope everyone can take that lesson to heart. And thank you again, everyone, for being here.
Can you believe that he did that with no notes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was completely from the heart. He told me before he said that he had had that in his head for the last 4 months.
Mm.
And I don't know, it summed it up so beautifully that, yeah, that was a sacrifice. Like, the last year especially was so hard. And yeah, she went from a marathon runner to not being able to walk on her own in the past couple of months and being bedridden. And she lost a lot of the things that she felt made her her. And so, yes, it absolutely was such a huge sacrifice for every second we got with her. And my family absolutely does feel like the past 3 years, every second of that has been a gift from her.
Mm. Yeah. Because her body was not, it was shutting down for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And your cousin, he spoke about like that relentlessness,
Mm-hmm.
that she really had a commitment to be alive for others and really to comfort others. And she's dying and comforting her friends and comforting her.
Yes, and she like she's was always very direct. She will tell you exactly what she's thinking always. And she had friends, and I'm sure you experienced this with your dad too, that wanted to avoid her. They didn't want to see her like that. They didn't like the reminder of what was happening. And she called them and she was like, you better get your ass here right now. Like, you need to get here. And she would tell friends that who lived in Florida, and suddenly these people are hopping on flights and they're coming to sit with her. It didn't matter if you were the neighbor down the road or you lived states away. Like, she wanted them there. She's like, I am still here. Like, in the past couple weeks, she was pretty much asleep, but before that, she was like, I am still me. I look like crap
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like crap, but I am still here. So please come sit with me. And people did. Like, they showed up and it was hard. And yeah, people cried. They sat next to her and they cried all day. And she was comforting them. And it was, and honestly, my cousins and my uncle were also comforting them. And they were the ones, I mean, most directly going through this. And so it was hard to watch, but it was incredible to watch how forceful she was till the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can imagine, friends that hadn't seen her for some time and knew her as this such a strong marathon runner, spirit, you know, hearing, oh, you've got this cancer diagnosis, but she's like, no, you better get your butt here right now because I'm leaving soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is your last chance, kind of last call, people.
Yes.
And for them to see her, because you've showed me pictures over the last months of her getting very, very yellow, it just
Mm-hmm.
looks like not real skin.
Yes.
because of her, I believe that's her liver shutting down, right? When the
Yeah.
liver shuts down, then you turn
Hmm.
this yellow color. And she's been like that for some time. And I could imagine if you see that, her body so thin and her face so
Hmm.
like it's real, like, oh, she's really dying. It's
Yes. And it was
sure.
actually, she didn't just make it to graduation. On April 29th, she made it to her 50th birthday. And my family was really playing things on a day by day basis. So it wasn't until about, I don't know, 5, 6 days before her birthday that my uncle was like, okay, I think she's gonna make it. So we need to have a party. Like, this is a huge milestone. So he invited a ton of people to his house, and with 5 days' notice, 50 people showed up to their house on a Tuesday night. And she hated being the center of attention, so she was like, oh my god, I can't believe you're doing this to me. But she was able to sit on the couch and everyone was able to sit with her, and some people, yeah, they hadn't seen her in months, and so that visual impact, like, it hit them immediately. They walked in the door, saw her, and immediately started crying because, yeah, I mean, she was a physical therapist, a marathon runner, was obsessed with like just reading medical journals and would adjust her diet like according to those things. So the visual of her, yeah, I mean, looking very yellow, like the day after her birthday, my family has very dark humor. And my dad was like, hey, Di, like, since you're 50 now, can I call you Old Yeller? And she just burst out laughing and was like, wow, rude, but sure.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, it's such a dance, right? To have like to be the one, and I don't know because I've not had a terminal illness and I've not been dying yet. But to be I can speak at least for a family member of someone who's dying, of how everybody has their own process of
Mhm.
of letting go, you know, and there's in one of my death doula trainings, they talked about like the circles of care,
Mhm.
and how there's like the person that's dying, and then it's the closest family, and then it's the, you know, extended family and close friends, and then it's
Yep.
community, right? So it's wider and wider circles. And ideally, it would be the people out here in the wider circles are comforting the people that are closer
Yes.
versus,
The
the
other way
partner and the
around.
kids and the super close people are, they're the dying person ideally wouldn't be the one needing to comfort everybody, right?
Yeah.
Comfort.
Yes.
And I think that is that says something about our culture and
Mhm.
how we are with dying and death and loss and letting go in general. We don't practice.
Mhm.
And I'm a real advocate for practicing letting go and ritualizing and making meaning of the small things, letting go of, oh, you have a partner or a boyfriend. And even if it only lasted 6 months, how do you ritualize and say goodbye and bring some flowers somewhere and have
Mhm.
a little ceremony? The week is over. You made it through the week. Can you go to the ocean and say thank you for
Mhm.
the week and let go of what you need to let go of? So if we can practice crying and we can practice letting go in the smaller things and then show up physically when people are dying to offer comfort, we can get more comfortable with death as part of the process of life,
Yes.
right? And then we
Yes.
don't need to be the ones being comforted by the dying and by,
Yes.
right? So,
And like, yeah, I love what you said about people handle things in different ways because I absolutely saw that. And I enjoyed seeing how people showed up in different ways. Like, they have an amazing community. My aunt and uncle have just put joy and care and love into the world, and it has been returned to them. So while she was comforting a lot of people, people were showing up with food. They were sending DoorDash gift cards, which my like number one piece of advice, if you have someone in your life who is going through something challenging, family member dying, whatever. I know it's tempting to pull the Southern thing and show up with a casserole, but DoorDash gift cards are worth their weight in gold. I think people can still have their autonomy and choose exactly what food they want and not need to leave their loved one. Sorry, just sidebar, but that was really important for us. But yeah, they were showing up with food, with gift cards. One week, my uncle took my cousin on a cruise, and all of my aunt's former coworkers created this spreadsheet, and they took PTO and they showed up. They sat with me and my mom that week just to help her with her. She had like external drains. They helped change those drains out, which is something I'm not able to do. They just sat with her. They brought bubbles and games and things for us to do. It was like one giant sleepover all week. So shout out to those ladies. I mean, her two closest friends who are soccer parents, they like just came over and did like goofy, ridiculous things all the time to make us laugh. And they did that even after she had passed. And so the way people showed up to give was really incredible. And then the different ways people grieved, like my aunt passed. I mean, when we're recording this, my aunt passed just over 2 weeks ago. So I will say currently in the last 2 weeks, like they came and sat with the body, which like I said, they probably wouldn't have been comfortable with until we talked this through. And they shared so many things on social media and called my uncle just to chat with him about her because he's of the mindset of like, no, I want to talk about her.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I love hearing what everyone has to say about my wife.
Yeah.
And so, and her former coworker and mentor, Kate, asked for a portion of her ashes to spread at a running trail that they used to run at all the time. And she and some of their other running buddies from work are going to plant a native azalea in this park that they used to run in. So I've just seen all of these beautiful ways that people showed up and are continuing to show up as they grieve alongside us. So I've been really, really grateful for all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many ways to memorialize a person, to remember a person, and there's so many ways to show up for for her, like her partner, which is your uncle. I love that he's very clear that he wants to talk about her, so please don't not call. I want you to call. I want you to share stories. I want to hear the stories, and that nurtures him, that's healing for him, that's comforting for him. And I think that is important for people in the podcast to hear, because I think what I hear a lot is, I've had different programs for grieving folks, for women after major loss, for people moving through big, hard transitions. And I have had clients and folks in my circle, like I have somebody that I want to refer to you, for example, to do some private work with you or to join a program, but I think it's too soon. I don't think I should tell them. I don't think I should reach out yet. I don't think I should. So there's a lot of that. I don't know how to reach out. I don't know when to reach out. I feel like it's too soon. And I liken this a little bit to when I first became a mom and my son was born. It was so wild because that week after he was born, I got 0 phone calls. Like nobody.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody, well, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it was 0 phone calls, but there were friends I wanted to talk to and I wanted to hear from, but people were purposefully not calling me because they knew I just had a baby and they wanted to give me space. Right. So I think that happens too when someone gets a cancer diagnosis or, they're dying or they just died. Everyone's like, ooh, I don't know how to reach out. I'm thinking about them. I love them, but I think it's too soon. I want to give them space. So I hear that a lot. So I think it's really beneficial to have like very simple communication around, like, you could send a text message to someone and say, hey, I'm really thinking about your dad, or I'm thinking about your family. Would it be beneficial for me to call right now? What's a good time to call? Do you want to call? Question mark. I'm free to stop by after work at 5:30 with a pot of soup. Would you like that? Question mark. Or can I leave the soup outside your door? Right. And then people can say, it's like talking to a toddler. You don't want to have to think too hard. Like yes or no.
Yes.
For would you prefer a casserole or a DoorDash card? I'll drop
Yes.
one off tonight, right? And so it's like very simple. Like, would you like this or would you like this? Would you like a phone call or do you want me to wait till next week? Something like that.
Yes.
So, and I think people need more connection than we think they do. Like
Oh, yeah.
we very much have this idea that we need to give people space. And I'm not sure why that is, but that's likely, I think that's a myth or some weird.
Oh, yeah. That is the last thing. I mean, I can't speak for everyone's grieving process, but that is the opposite of what my family wants. Like, yeah, one of my aunt's best friends, she's texting my uncle every week at the beginning of the week. Hey, here's our menu for the week. This is what I'm cooking for my family.
Yeah.
Any night you and the boys, any of them want to join, we're happy to have you. And
Right.
that's just
Show up.
open invite and he's gone. And other people, yeah, have invited him out to dinner or well, crazy story is like my cousin went to his college orientation. He's about to go to Berry College to play soccer. And my uncle met his roommate, and his dad actually went to school with my aunt from like fifth grade on and knew her well. Didn't just like pass her in the hall, like knew her well. And so my uncle found this connection and he felt like it was a sign. And then this guy was like, hey, like in a couple nights, you want to join my friends and I for golf? Yes, he did join them for golf and he needs stuff like that. Like the memorial was last Wednesday and my family was going home on Friday and we were like, come with us.
Mhm.
Come with us. Our friend is having a birthday party on Saturday and she loves you and would love to have you there. And yeah, I drove back to North Carolina with my uncle. Like
Right.
he wants to be dragged
Yeah.
kicking and screaming out of his house. Like he wants to be asked to do those things. And so do I. Like I want to be with my friends, my community during this. So that is just something else I would tell people. If you have people in your life going through this, like reach out to them.
Yeah.
They probably could use, I don't know, just time to sit with you and enjoy your presence.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, if somebody wants to be alone, they can say no thanks. You know,
Yeah.
your uncle is like, please drag me out. Someone else could say, please leave me alone. I need this week to just be in quiet. And that's valid too,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So anything is valid, but the reach out, would you like me to stop by? Would you like this or would you like that? Can I come and bring you food?
Yes.
I'm gonna go for a walk in the park this afternoon. Would you like to
All of
come
that.
with me? Just think about I and this is like a short course in the how to be human handbook, right? That we never got of how do we show up for people who are grieving, mourning, struggling, you know, depressed, going through a hard time, whatever it is, think first about what you want to give, as opposed to like, oh, I think they must need food or they must need this or that, or they
Mhm.
must want solitude. Think about you like, gosh, I feel a little scared to show up, but I love this person and it would feel really good for me to make them a meal, or it would
Yeah.
feel really good for me to go for a walk. I'd love to just walk with them, or I'd love to sit with them, or I'd love to just share a movie, or I'd love to, you know, get
Yes.
takeout food or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like cooking, but I could have out some Thai or whatever. So just think about what, two ways that you'd like personally that you'd enjoy connecting and being of service. Then you can offer those two things, you know?
Yeah, that is such good advice because I do think some people were trying to think through like, well, what meals do I think they're all gonna like a lot? But my aunt's favorite meal, one of like the actual few things she ate in her last days was Bosnian food. Like these amazing spiral phyllo dough pastries. She was in love with those. And like, not many people would think about that, but this family is like from Bosnia, and they were so happy to share their cultural food, and it ended up being my aunt's favorite. So it's exactly what you said of like, what can you offer? And then I think the second step is like, consistency is key.
Mhm.
You don't need to reach out every day or every week or whatever, but like, keep reaching out. Even if they say no, just keep throwing it out there. Like, hey, do you want to do this on this date? And like, eventually you might get a yes.
Yeah. Yeah, just and you could put a reminder on your phone or on your calendar or whatever. It's funny, my phone just went beep beep. Put a reminder for yourself, just every Wednesday or every Friday or every whatever, just to reach out. And if you get like 8 no's, it's fine. Really, what happens too is after, I don't know if it was the 4 week mark or the 6 week mark. I'm thinking specifically after my dad died. I remember that maybe it was a week or two. Anyway, I don't even know exactly, but I remember the moment that all the food ran out.
Mm-hmm.
People had brought over a ton of stuff. And I remember the day that my mom and I looked at each other, we were hungry. And there was like the only thing left were like stale, like sugar cookies or something. And we're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we have to make food. Like we have to
Oh,
we have to feed ourselves today. Like how do we? And for literally weeks and weeks, we would basically just put a can of black beans and warm it up with some onions, and we would call it Mexican food. And we'd be like,
oh man. No.
because we couldn't think of anything else. It was like just a can of beans,
Yeah,
uh,
that's so real. That is so
throw some
real.
salsa on it, and we'll just eat that. So, you know, a month later, 2 months later, that's when it kind of gets real because everyone stopped bringing food and stopped checking in. And then it hits you like, oh, wow, this person's really gone. And there's
Mm-hmm.
not this influx of support coming. So I think that's a really wonderful thing to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Longer term consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Caitlin, that I feel like is a really beautiful thing that really came through from your words um at your aunt's memorial was like the sister and the auntie energy, that so like there's so much love that you had and have for your aunt, and how what a big part of your life she was, and you mentioned a few things like she got you your first pet, it was a chinchilla, and because you have allergies, like the last dog she got were hypoallergenic dogs just so you could come and spend time with her. And she was your eighth birthday, I think you said, and she let you concoct your own crazy cake, and just very much that big auntie energy. Angela and I were talking about that because she's a really proud auntie, and that energy of centering your nieces and nephews, whether they're biological, or you also shared about chosen family and how important chosen family is. So she was an auntie to like her actual blood nieces and nephews, and then also to a whole bunch of other people. And she was the sister to folks who were her, it's like she was a biological sister and a sister to many, many people. And how important that energy was, how important that love was, and that she really centered you. And I remember growing up as a kid, there's like one memory I had, like you shared about that cake, right? It was like mint chocolate chip,
Mm-hmm.
strawberry, whatever. And she just let you go at it. And there's like this power in being that adult for a child in your life, whether you're related or not, whether it's a friend's child, and really giving them your full attention and letting them make choices and have their space that you
Mm-hmm.
remember as an adult, like decades later. It's like a powerful moment. And it could just
Yes.
be a day, an hour or a day or just a little moment. And it's truly transformational. And it seems like your aunt gave you many of those moments.
Oh my gosh, yes. And like, yeah, I started my eulogy with talking about how to my family, chosen family is just as important. Like, yeah, I am very close to my uncle, was incredibly close to my aunt, but I also have so many like honorary aunts and uncles in my life. just people that my parents have adopted and like made my family. And my aunt absolutely did that. Like she was the glue of all of her different friend groups. She had so many different groups. Like her college friends have remained super close. Her coworkers are like a sisterhood. Her Bible study groups, all of the soccer parents, like those people and their kids. This is what I said in my eulogy. They lost a sister and an aunt. And she was very goofy. She was very devious. She always wanted to play pranks and it would even make other people nervous. And she was just like, come on, like have fun. Like, who cares? And yeah, she she would just I when people ask me where I see myself in 10 years, the only answer I have is a cool aunt. Like my brother and his fiance, like I'm sure they'll have kids, and I just want to be like outside of podcast world. I travel a ton. I work with students abroad, and so I want to be that cool aunt that like jets in every once in a while with gifts and just like goofy things. Exactly what she was for me. And then yeah, working with teenagers all the time. I lead study abroad trips in different countries. I try and bring that same energy. Like I am responsible for them for like 1 to 2 weeks, but I'm not your parent. We can have fun. Like you're in a foreign country, you're here to experience new things, and we can like have a blast while doing that. And I definitely took that energy from my aunt.
Yeah. You know, I love that. What do you want to be when you grow up kind of statement? And clearly you're like an adult working and traveling,
Yes.
all things. Um, but I think we put so much pressure on like, what's your 5 year plan? What's your next career move? And sometimes that's great. That's valid. It's like, oh, I want to become this next thing, or I want to go back to grad school, or I have a friend who just, in her late 40s went back to nursing school and is now a hospice nurse and feels like she finally found
Mm.
her work
Yeah.
around 50. This is my work in the world.
Yeah.
So so yes to all those things, but also you just said like the one thing I see is for myself is being an amazing auntie. And
Mhm.
why not let that be just as important a role, you know, to be an amazing aunt in the world, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it just sounds so fun.
It's so funny. I was just looking in my journal because you were mentioning like how like she has this like sort of devious spirit and an outside the box and a sort of Joker kind of energy.
Yeah.
It sounds very coyote to me, like very coyote energy. And it's so interesting because I was grappling with like what is the meaning a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thinking like, gosh, it might have been right around when your aunt died. I had a coyote wake me up. It was like 15 feet outside my window at 3 a.m., barking like a guard dog into my window at me and woke me up.
Oh my gosh.
And I got out, I'm looking, this coyote's like looking I'm on the first floor. It's literally looking at me in my window, barking. And I was like, whoa. It woke me out of a dead sleep. And then after like a minute or two of barking, it just, trounced, flounced
That, I mean, if
down the
you woke
street.
up at 3 p.m.
It was
Pacific time, like around the day she died, like my mom,
was
who,
3
are you
a.m.
back?
Yeah, it was 3 a.m.
Yeah, at 3 a.m., then it would have been 6 a.m. here. And my mom had actually, like, my aunt needed morphine every 2 hours, and my uncle was shattered. Like, he was so tired. And my mom and I, I actually offered first, and then my mom heard later and like took over. But we both were like, let us do that.
Mhm.
Like, let us take a night from you and give that morphine. So my mom slept beside her and gave her morphine, and I slept like right outside the room just in case my mom needed anything. And like at 6 a.m., my mom thought she heard like it's called like the death rattle, where I don't know, their breathing changes. And my mom was like, ooh, maybe this is it. And so, like, if that was the same timing, then maybe the coyote was like, yeah, a thing is happening. And at the same time, my throughout the night, my aunt and uncle's, one of their cats was like sitting up on a thing, staring down from above, like just watching everything happen. And so I'm like, they know there is some like, you know, sixth sense for them of what's going on.
Yeah. They're everything is connected. And um, yeah, it's wild. So
Yeah, and the timing, I mean, I talked about how she waited like literally 12 hours after graduation ended. And it wasn't just that, like, I am so certain she heard my uncle and my two cousins, her boys, leave the house. They went to just go play pickleball with my mom. That is my younger cousin's greatest joy in life, I'm so certain, is playing pickleball with my mother. And I was left in the house with my dad, and we could hear her breathing very loudly. And my dad was like chomping ice, which is like my least favorite thing on the planet. And so I turned to him and I was like, I think I'm gonna go crazy listening to her breathe and you chomp ice. Stop chomping ice. And then not 2 minutes after that, my aunt was like, I got you. I'm gonna gift you silence. And like, then it was silent. And I went in there and saw that I watched her last movements and saw that she had stopped breathing, and had my dad help me out and called my uncle and had him come back. But I was like, this woman is unbelievable. She waited for her boys to leave the house. Like, she did not want them there for that. And it is the honor of my life that she was comfortable with me to die with me. I will never forget that. My dad and I share that, I mean, kind of panicked experience. But I mean, what an honor that was. And 3.5 years ago, before this podcast, there's no way I would have been prepared for that situation. I mean, we don't know what we can handle until we go through it, but what I've learned from, gosh, like more than 80 episodes has really prepared me for this season.
oh. Well, that makes it for me, it makes it worth it.
Yeah.
Even if
Yes.
you were the only person that listened to all these episodes.
Oh, yes. I've listened to every episode. I'm the biggest fan of the podcast. And the podcasting was also such a gift because I was able to work remotely and choose to work from her couch. I sat right beside her and edited so many podcast episodes, like, because my other job is working abroad, and I said no to so many trips, so many contracts, because I didn't want to be far away from my family.
Yeah.
And so having this podcast and the other shows I've worked on also through you has been a gift, because otherwise I would not have had this time with her.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. It really means so much more than you know.
I'm gonna cry.
And now that she's gone, it's like a weird feeling because I can say yes to these things. Like 3 weeks after she passed, I will be landing in Italy to lead student trips all summer. I'll be gone from home out of the US for 3 months, and I'm already considering a contract for the fall in Asia. And I haven't been able to consider a destination that far in 4 years. And now I can consider saying yes to these things. So that's also why Jen and I are like, or Jen, you and I are like considering the wind down of this podcast, or at least my role in it, because I can say yes. Like, now we've entered this new period of my life where it was a gift to have this podcast so that I could spend that time with her. But now that she's gone, and she loved travel and she embodied living life to the fullest, I want to go do that.
Yeah.
I want to travel as much as possible. I want to mark things off of her bucket list that she didn't get to do. Like, she had big dreams of like African safari, Galapagos, like smaller things. Like, my younger cousin's name is Bryce. She wanted to take him to Bryce Canyon. Yeah, we're taking that kid to Bryce Canyon. He's a man now, he's 18, but we're taking him to Bryce Canyon. Like, so I don't know. It's going to be really hard to wrap up this chapter of my life and wrap up this podcast because I'm very attached to it, but it really did align so well with her journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And like her journey, I mean, and now what you're shining a light on, which I feel like is really important, is like the gift that we get to live after someone we love so deeply goes, especially if, there's caregiving involved or there's a terminal illness and you don't know when they're going to go or how much they're going to be able to do. I know throughout these years you were, okay, I'm going to be gone. Well, I'm going to come back early, or I'm going to, like, I thought I was going to be gone, but I'm going to stay because I want to spend this time with my aunt. Um, and now there's this open door for you to travel again in a big way, to do some of those bigger dreams, to go farther, to take jobs in Asia, and that's an honor to your aunt. You want to do the things that she wanted to do on her bucket list that she couldn't. You want to do all the travel that you want to do, and I was just thinking about Brene Brown. I was hearing her talk about success, and I tried to find this quote or find this video, and I couldn't find it. But so I don't know exactly the quote, but the gist was she realized how, like, that she had reached this big layer, this big level of success when she was saying no. All the things she was saying no to were things that she loved and that she'd really want to say yes to. So like every opportunity on her plate was like, you know, a 9 or 10 out of 10. I'm putting those words in her mouth, but it's like everything was something that she wanted to do. So she was saying no to things that she wanted to do because there were just too many of the things that she wanted to do. And that is one, that could be one definition of success. So and then also just knowing when it's like we get attached to things, and knowing when it's time to move on, even though we love something. And I think that applies to jobs, that applies to relationships, that applies to so many things. And, so, this podcast is set up in cycles. We set it up at the beginning in cycles of 7, to honor the 7 creative planets, that there's a cycle in it, not just like a whole bunch of episodes, just in perpetuity. So all of my programs, the Grace Collective is set up in seasons where we have retreats every, 4 times a year at the solstice and equinox months, and just honoring that there are seasons and there are cycles. And we're right now we're recording and finishing up the whole summer season before you go away, so it can roll out, June, July, August, and then we are planning a final season, September, October, November. And what we decided was we wanted to close. I felt like a 4-year cycle felt important to me. That was something that was sort of symbolic. When my dad was dying, I received a healing session actually after he died. And the bear came up, and the bear's cycle is a 4-year cycle. So the healer that I was working with was saying, yeah, pay attention to the bear and everything around bear, and also the 4-year cycle of things. So I had that thought, like, gosh, when is this podcast? Is it going to end? And when is it going to end? And I had this intuition of 4 years. And then I shared that on a meeting. We had a meeting, and Caitlin was like, yeah, actually, I wanted to talk to you about that because, I mean, I want to be traveling more internationally. And I feel like around that time if you wanted to keep going, would be a time that you need a new producer.
Yes, and I kept saying, okay, cool, let's kill off the podcast. And you were like, stop saying kill off the podcast. And I'm like, I know, I should have learned the terminology by now. We're giving the podcast a conscious dying process. And we have like sat down and had multiple meetings where we've conceptualized like, what do we want the end to look like? Let's give it the right, I don't know, honor it in the right way, give it the right guests at the end, cover those last topics that we feel like we didn't cover. The what did we miss
Yeah.
over 4 years, which covered a lot, so it's not much. But yeah, just giving it, I don't know, just being really intentional about it feels right. Like you said this in the beginning, not just like a, okay, we publish an episode 1 week and then never again.
Right.
Doesn't feel right for this type of show.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, one of the things that I wanted to highlight is sort of that, the love of chosen family, and the auntie energy feels, important from this episode. And, we were going to have, I thought, let's have D Cloud on to share about her breast cancer journey coming through and out the other side, because we haven't had a guest specifically about, the loss of parts of themselves through a cancer journey they moved through, and now they're healthy. So we wanted to highlight that. And if you're listening to this podcast, and we're not sure exactly when we're dropping it, but I'm wondering if there are some topics that we haven't covered, like, oh gosh, I'd really love to hear this before you close it out. So feel free to email us at walkthroughgriefwithgrace@gmail.com, or I'll put a post in the Grief and Grace Facebook. We have a private Facebook community that we've been cultivating. It's about 1,000 people since the beginning of this podcast. So I can put a poll in there if there are any topics that we want to make sure we cover in the final 7 episodes or so of the podcast. Because we were considering dropping this as the last episode, but I think we need to drop it not as the last episode, but maybe in September, to sort of
then people have a heads up, because we are talking about like, preparing for the end. So we can give people, this is your heads up, that hopefully you're not too disappointed that the podcast is ending, but we are, yes, consciously giving you this time to say goodbye with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And, with that, who knows, it may rebirth as some new iteration. But, you think about it as now we're watching so many, Apple TV and Netflix and all of these different shows that have like seasons. Oh, one of my favorites lately, which I've mentioned in the e-newsletter, is Shrinking, is one of my.
Oh my gosh, I love Shrinking.
So if you're listening to this and you haven't watched it and you get Apple TV, watch Shrinking. It's my absolute favorite. And when they conceived of that, they conceived at the beginning, they said this is going to be a 3-season series. The first season is going to be about grief. The second season is going to be about forgiveness. And the third season is going to be about moving on. And I really loved that because it was really consciously thought of at the beginning. And we didn't really do that with this podcast. We said, okay, we're going to do these cycles of 7, and every 7th episode will be a practice, and then da-da-da. But I think that that's really wonderful, because sometimes you're like, is this going to be renewed for another season? We don't know, and we all have that favorite show that you're like, oh, I can't wait for the next season of whatever. And then there's, it's only eight seasons or 5 seasons, and then it's over, So yeah, I feel, I just feel really, it feels like an honor to have had this opportunity to host this podcast. It really feels like part of my life legacy. When we dropped the first 7 episodes, it felt like, oh, this is important, and if I die in a week, something that I created is going to be left for others, and it will be a gift. you know.
Yes. And like this is definitely dropping after our episode with Molly Pearson, who talks about like leaving those things. Like for anyone in your life, they have hours and hours of you talking. Like I I want that for my aunt. Like I would love if she had had a podcast that I could go back and listen to every day. Like I have videos of her and stuff, but yeah, you have gifted like everyone in your life and beyond, like your voice for
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that is something when after my dad died, I had a voicemail that was on my phone. And it was like the shortest voicemail, but it was the last one that he left. It was just like, hey, when you go to the store, will you pick up blueberries and some lemons? Thanks. And that was it. There was no I love you. There was no, and I kept that voicemail till, for years until
Yes.
whatever the voicemail gods make it go away after 3 years or something. and and I didn't have any, there was no other audio anywhere of my dad. And there was a video someplace of him laughing, and couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know where it is. So I think it's just we can, and I'm not, I didn't think about that until, now it's like, oh gosh, when I do die, there is this podcast and my
Yep.
kid can listen to it. And my,
Yeah.
friends of mine, they're like, I miss Jen. Go listen to a podcast episode,
Mhm.
right? So how cool is that? Um, but what an interesting, and I encourage everyone to do this while you're feeling young and healthy, no matter what age you are, to think about, gosh, what would I like to leave those people that love me? And
Mhm.
maybe that's your favorite book that you want to give your best friend, and you write a little card and pop it in there for them to find, or birthdays from beyond, Molly's business of writing birthday cards to your favorite people, leaving them in a box, and then
Mhm.
they open them on their birthday after you're gone. So it's like we can really collaborate, as creative beings. We all have amazing creative capacity. How can we collaborate, from the other side? um and and that's really really cool to think about. So yeah, it's been a real honor to um host this, to pass the mic to so many different voices of folks who have so many wise pieces of wisdom to share and stories to share. And yeah, I'm really yeah, I'm grieving, and I'm also satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people my favorite job is one where I get to learn something new every time I show up to work. And I get to do that with my students abroad, but I also just get to do that with this podcast. So that has really been the best part of it for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your willingness to learn and grow with me and with the podcast and with all the guests, and produce this in such a like beautiful, like expert. I feel like it's like you bring expertise and integrity and beauty to the podcast in the way that you hold all the back end and editing
The
bits.
woman behind the curtain.
The wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Pink-haired wizard behind the curtain.
Yes. I know now. I'm like, oh, this is what I sound like and look like for all of our listeners. Yeah.
And thank you for your patience. It is a wild ride to like listen to yourself. I mean, it's a big deal to I remember how scared I was to launch this podcast and to step into that role of speaker. Really, it's like I'm hosting a podcast, but it means I'm a speaker and an interviewer, and I may or may not have those skills yet, but I'm going to dive in and learn the skills as I go. um so yeah, it says something about how we can step into bigger versions of ourselves and put on new hats and new titles, and how that will grow us. So this podcast has really grown me into a speaker and a podcast host and a leader in ways that that I could only do by doing it. I could only grow by jumping in and learning as I go. So, um, just encouraging anyone out there, if you have something like that you don't feel ready to do, by doing it, you'll ready yourself.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, Caitlin. Is there anything else that we missed? I know we talked for a while and we said a bunch of things, but
Oh my gosh, how do I distill 85 episodes of wisdom into one ending? Um, no, I guess, yeah, the biggest thing I've learned is just, I think you talked about it briefly in this episode too, is just like sitting with all of the different types of grief in your life. When I started the podcast with you, I was grieving the life I thought I would have during the pandemic
mhm,
that went away because of lockdown, my life abroad. And then, you know, the very obvious grief of you have a sick family member, you're caregiving for them, they pass away. But yeah, I've loved listening to the different types of grief that we're acknowledging on the podcast of like, well, I lost a job, a relationship ended, I needed to close my business, uh, struggle with friends. Like those things are worth the time to sit with too and acknowledge and yes, grieve. Like you can take the time for that too in any way feels helpful for you on your own or with the help of someone like you. Like the people in your collective or your clients or anyone who has worked with you come from such a variety of backgrounds. So that's what I want to leave everyone with is like your grief is valid, no matter how big or small it feels um, or seems to others, that it is important. And I hope that you're able to sit with it and heal through it.
yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. And your tears are valid. I encourage everyone to cry more. Um, there's this general thing I hear in, at weddings and women's circles, at events, oh no, I'm going to cry. I hope you don't
Mm-hmm.
cry. Even at funerals, oh no, I'm going to cry. It's like, gosh, you can't cry now. What are you, AI?
Yeah.
Human, you have a heart. We're meant to cry. And it shows that we have a heart. It shows that there was something that was meaningful to us. It tears are cleansing, tears are healing, tears, bring us, you know, wash us. They wash us clean. It's our own internal holy water that helps us, you know, clear the way for the next step. So
Yeah. Like
just
you
encourage
wouldn't,
everyone to cry whenever you
yes.
feel moved.
Yes, because you wouldn't be grieving these things or crying over these things if they weren't important. Like it happens for a reason. You need it. Yeah.
And really that grief, that's what I've come up, by walking these last 5 years, mainly as a grief guide. I do other things as well, but I've really, that has been my main role in the past 5 years, just recognizing that grief is really about love. Like it's because we love deeply that we mourn and we move the
Yes.
grief journey. So, um, just really shining a light on the beauty of our full hearts.
Hmm.
Just honoring everyone that's been listening to the podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you have, um, feel free to continue to subscribe, like, rate, review, share the podcast. It will be rolling for the next few months. We're planning to drop the final episode on the anniversary of my dad's death and the fourth anniversary of the podcast, which will be November 15th. Um, and, share until then. And after then, it will carry on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen, and thanks to all of our listeners. I've enjoyed curating these podcasts for you for 4 years.
Until next time. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for being a listener to this podcast. We really want to stay in touch with you long term. So, if you don't already receive our e-newsletter, we'd love to offer you inspiration, insights, and news about how things are evolving and how we can support you on your journey. So, at the top of the Walk Through Grief with Grace website, that's walkthroughgriefwithgrace.com, you'll see a yellow button and you can sign up for our free gift, and that will put you on our e-newsletter list and we can stay in touch with you. So thank you so much for your spirit and your presence, and we will see you soon. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for listening. You are a vital part of this podcast. You are why we are here. Let us close today by placing a hand on our hearts and a hand on our bellies, feeling our breath move through our bodies. May we feel connected. May we be at peace. May we be love. As we breathe, let us acknowledge that in this moment we are, in fact, alive, and this is a miraculous gift. Let's bow our heads gently to our hearts. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for doing something healing and kind in this moment right now. We give great thanks. We give great thanks. We give great thanks. And it is done until next time. May you walk gently out in the world and be gentle and loving with yourself. Much love from my heart to yours, and bye for now.